Like when you bring in a guy like Dylan Gibbons, you're like, all right, man, I get it. High quality, moral fabric, leader, helps maybe change some of the things that you want to do process-wise. Guys can follow him. But, man, how often will you be able to find a guy like that? And then not to say, like, Casey Roddick's the next Dylan Gibbons, but, man, Casey Roddick just seems like a really stand-up dude, has his head on his shoulders the right way, is focused on the correct things. He talks about wanting to leave Florida State a better place than he found it. These are sort of things that you don't hear from a lot of, 19, 20-year-old guys. They're even coming through the transfer portal. Man, like Mike Norvell legitimately has a profile. And to your point, maybe a guy like Jaheim Bell's maybe a little bit more braggadocious, so maybe you can play around with a little bit of the more, alpha kind of mindset guys that might not want to have the whole holistic sort of student athlete approach. But man, there's a legitimate profile to who he's going after. We're seeing that now. And I'm really curious. That's the only thing that kind of held me back. Like, can you be a good guy like Mike Norvell seemingly and bring all these seemingly good dudes in and win a bunch of football games? Feeling like maybe you actually can, and that feels revolutionary somewhat.
Yeah, and I think I made the point in the column too that like Norvell is attracted to those kind of players. Obviously, like again, talent wins out. Talent is the most important. But if everything's equal, he's looking for a different kind of kid than one that's been a malcontent or has been run off somewhere. And I think so he's attracted to a different kind of player. But I also think now, as we're 3 years into this, the Casey Roddicks of the world are attracted to Mike Norvell and his program, right? Like they attract each other. So I do think this can continue. Like there aren't that many of those guys out there. There are not a ton of Jermaine Johnsons, Dylan Gibbons, Devontae Love Taylors, Casey Roddicks of the world out there. But he seems to find them, and they're attracted to him because number one of when Casey Roddick comes in on a visit, and these linemen, look, man, he's seen it all. And these linemen, a lot of these guys are older guys too. And he's talking to the Dimitri Emanuels or the Dylan Gibbonses or the Jazz and Turnentines. Again, I would encourage everyone to read Ira's article on Turnentine too, because that was a really eye-opening one about what he had to say. When those guys are speaking up the culture, what does that say to a guy like Roddick? He loves that stuff. He's attracted to that more than, oh, yeah, they got my bench up by 45 pounds or whatever it might be. It's, man, yeah, no, these guys really do care for you, and all these players care about you. That's, man, to a guy like Casey Roddick, that's how you win a recruiting battle like that. I think that stuff does matter to a certain type of player, and right now that's the certain type of player that Mike Norvell's getting and has been great at getting. So, yeah, man, Johnny Wilson's a good guy. We'll go down the line. I mean, they're all, most of all these transfers that they brought in, almost all of them to a man, have been great fits. And they've been, I want to say they've been indoctrinated into the culture, but in reality, haven't they kind of created the culture?
Yeah.
Like when you talk about what Norvell's done the last 3 years, it's been the transfers. And I count Jordan Travis as that and Fabian Lovett as that. They're the guys that Greedy Vance, just go the whole team really. They've really let this culture blossom. The way the transfers come into this program, I think, really does say a lot about what this culture is. And yeah, man, I could not have been more impressed with Roddick. Man, I hope you can play, Casey. I know you can. You played at Colorado. You started a bunch of games. Man, I hope he's good because I think you said it right. He's like, to me, he feels like another Dylan Gibbons.